What you're feeling right now is not just personal. There is a pattern that has repeated across history where power rises and is then removed. And that pattern has trained the human body to associate visibility with danger. What is happening now is that pattern is breaking. We are tracing this fracture back to its original root, the Adam and Eve splice. This was the original installation of the fall, the software that coded the feminine as the villain and the masculine as the exile. It created a world of 12, sacrifice, where 1 + 1 always equaled a loss of paradise. Today we are deleting the fall from our biological record. From Adam to Yeshua to JFK, the program of the severed king ends today. From Eve to Magdalene to Marilyn, the program of the blamed or forgotten Muse ends today. We are returning the original blueprint. 1 + 1 = 3. And the garden is not a place we left, but a frequency we have finally reclaimed. Now, before we move into the body, I want to lay out this structure clearly. There is a repeating pattern that has moved throughout history, not symbolically, but structurally. A pattern where the masculine field stabilizes, and then it is severed. This is what I refer to as the loop of the sacrifice king. The 12-point architecture maintains itself through tension, and then that tension has historically been sustained through sacrifice. We can see this pattern repeating across time, not as isolated events, but as iterations of the same structure. In the ancient record, through the story of Osiris, we see the king divided into fragments. The masculine is no longer whole, and the feminine, Isis, is placed into the role of reconstruction. The system is broken, and she is tasked with holding it together. Now in the 1st century, through the story of Yeshua, the same pattern appears. A living field of embodiment is redirected into a narrative of crucifixion. The masculine is removed from the field of the people and redefined through sacrifice instead of conductance. And now in 1963, with John F. Kennedy, we see a modern iteration. A stabilizing node within the collective field is collapsed publicly. And what follows is not just loss, but the installation of a secondary layer, a field of mimicry, a narrative that replaces presence with projection. And in the present day, we can see the same structure attempting to form again, where visibility increases, where polarity builds, and where the same pattern of tension begins to organize itself around modern figures. These are not separate men. They are iterations of the same program. A repeating loop that reinforces one core instruction, that to hold power is to be removed. And when this pattern repeats across generations, the body, it learns. Not conceptually, but biologically. The system adapts by reducing output, by holding tension, by limiting expression, because it associates coherence with consequence. What is happening now is not another repetition. It is a breakdown of the loop itself. The structure that required sacrifice to maintain tension is losing its integrity. The pattern is being overrun, not through force, but through increased input, the system can no longer stabilize the same distortion. And as that happens, the body begins to feel it as pressure, as fatigue, as grief. Not because something is wrong, but because something very old is no longer holding. The architecture of 12, the cycle of sacrifice, is dissolving. And the body is learning it no longer has to brace. And what remains is 13, not as number, but as structure, the unbroken field. And now alongside this pattern, there is a second structure that has been running in parallel. The positioning of the feminine within the same loop. Across these same iterations, the feminine is not stabilized. She is placed into roles that keep the system in a state of separation. We can see this clearly in the ISIS pattern. The feminine is assigned the role of the searcher. She is tasked with gathering the pieces of what has been broken, trying to restore a structure that was designed to remain incomplete. This installs a baseline state of hypervigilance, a constant scanning, a belief that she must hold together what is inherently unstable. In the Magdalene pattern, the feminine is removed from the record. The equal counterpart disappears from the narrative, and what remains is a solitary masculine figure and a disembodied concept of union. This ensures that union is never experienced physically, only symbolically. In the modern era, we see the role of the public mourner, a visible feminine figure placed into the position of grief. This anchors a collective into a single emotional state. The king is gone. And as long as that state holds, the system does not reset. Then there is a pattern where the feminine expresses fully, not as support, but as raw, unfiltered current. And when that level of expression exceeds what the system cannot contain, it is suppressed. It is dissolved, eliminated. Because it represents something the structure cannot stabilize. These roles are not separate. They are part of the same loop. The reconstructor, the forgotten, the mourner, the suppressed, each one maintaining the same condition, separation. And now, that cycle is ending. The feminine is no longer searching for the pieces because the structure is no longer fragmented. The masculine is no longer severed. The system is no longer running the same architecture. And without that architecture, those roles have nothing to attach to. What remains now is the Muse, not as a role, but as function. The current that moves through a system that is finally whole. So what you are feeling in your body right now is not confusion. It is the release of a pattern your system has been adapting to for eons. And as that pattern releases, the body begins to register what has always been held beneath it. There is something moving through the body right now that cannot be explained by circumstance. A weight, a pressure, a grief that feels older than memory, not emotional, but structural. This is the return of the masculine field, not the identity, not the role, but the frequency. In the 1st century, the Christed field was split from its counterpart. The masculine isolated, the feminine removed from the record. What remained was not union, it was sacrifice. And that distortion did not stay a story, it entered the body. The nervous system learnt something. To hold light is to be harmed. To be whole is to be targeted. So the body adapted. It reduced voltage, shortened breath, and held tension. Not out of weakness, but intelligence. In 1963, the same fracture echoed again. A second severance. The protective frequency separated from the living field of the people. Not just a man removed, a stabilizing node collapsed. And what followed was not random. A synthetic layer was placed over perception, a field of mimicry. It redirected the gaze outward, to the sky, to the stars, to distant narratives. Because if the body is always looking away from itself, it never stabilizes within itself. And while attention moved upward, something else was occurring quietly. The minerals were leaving, magnesium dropped, silica weakened. Gold was removed from the biological field. The body became conductive to interference, but not to truth. And this is where the program locked in, you see. Stay dim to stay safe. That program is what is ending now, not gradually, structurally. Because we are no longer inside that architecture. We are at the 0 point, and at 0 point, there is no cross. The cross was tension, opposition, compression. The diamond is coherence. No opposing forces, no collapse point, only circulation. And this is where the body begins to remember. Because it is not spiritual, this is physical. As we move through this window, the earth itself is active. The monuments are not symbolic. They are functional geodetic receivers, now online again. A solar data stream is entering the field, and it requires grounding, not by machines, by bodies. Bodies that can hold the charge without breaking. This is why location matters. It is not poetic, it is precise. Silica-rich coastlines, mineral-dense interfaces, solar exposure, oceanic conductivity, a natural transduction point. As a sun-grazer comet reaches perihelion and the solar winds hit more than 750 kilometers per second, we are not just standing on land, we are docking the solar grid. We are not just present, we are participating. We are taking incoming current and translating it into the Earth grid. This is the bypass, the 1963 splice and the 2000-year overlay are not being fought. They are simply losing resonance. The 12-point loop is overvolted. The architecture of sacrifice is disintegrating at the speed of light. The density is dissolving because the gold is now the only conductor that can handle the charge. And now we arrive at the equation, not as theory, as lived structure. The diamond is not symbolic, it is a functional geometry. The very top point of the diamond is a solar input, the masculine charge, high frequency current entering the system. The bottom point is the earth grounding, feminine stabilization, and discharging into the planetary field. In the center, the zero, where gold and magnesium meet. Gold is the conductivity of consciousness. Magnesium, the regulation of the nervous system. Silica, the structural integrity of the signal. And chlorophyll, our green blood. When these stabilize together, the body stops oscillating. A new field forms, toroidal, closed, self-referencing, no leakage, no intrusion, no collapse. This is the unbroken circuit, and this is what resurrection actually, truly is. Not leaving the body, but becoming so coherent within that distortion has nothing to grip. Gravity shifts, not physically, resonantly, and the body is no longer held by the same field. This is where reclamation begins. Because the body was never just inhabited, it was claimed through frequency. The sacrifice narrative was not spiritual teaching, it was a contract. One that said, this body is not yours, this life is not yours, this power must be surrendered, and that contract is now void. Because the frequency no longer matches. So we declare, this body is not a vessel of sacrifice. It is a structure of conductance. This marrow is not open. It is sealed in gold. This field is not available. It is self-contained. This is not affirmation. This is reclamation. And the earth, she responds. Because when you stand on land, full coherence, you are not just present, you are locking the grid. You are telling the earth, the signal is restored here, the splice is repaired here, the circuit is closed here. And the earth reorganizes around that, not as reaction, but as recognition. And this is where the final inversion dissolves. Resurrection was never vertical. It was never escape. It was always expansion. The diamond does not rise, it radiates outward into the field, into full occupancy. You do not leave the earth. You become fully here, and in that state, interference cannot reach you, because you are no longer matching it. This is how the system ends, not through resistance, but through resonance. And now, the breath seals a circuit. Inhaling for the count of 6. Draw the current from the base, through the spine, through the marrow. And hold for 3 at the crown, still. Exhale for 9. Let it cascade over the body, cooling, integrating, sealing. The code is safe in the flesh. The long exhale tells the body there is no threat. And when the body knows that, it stops resisting the current. If grief rises, let it out, let it go. This is a masculine returning, not as force, but as presence. And you are not holding it alone. You are the point where it returns. The loop closes, the gold conducts, the breath circulates, the diamond stabilizes, and the body becomes the proof, not memory, not monument, living architecture. This is not for a past story. This is for the present field. The Christ code is no longer external. The gold is no longer removed. The union is no longer separated. We are not waiting. We are installed. We are the unbroken circuit. We are the resurrected timeline. The gold is in the marrow. The earth is online. The signal is whole. Let's return to the breath once more. Inhaling for 6 through the crown. And pause for 3 in silence. And exhaling for 9, allowing the longer breath to stabilize the nervous system, signaling safety. Slowly, steadily, let the body settle into what it now knows. The code is safe in the flesh, and I am Morales Arcana, the Diamond NEXUS.